Chauncey Spencer, S-P-E-N-C-E-R the second. Chauncey E. Spencer the second. He's president of the Central Region of the Tuskegee Airmen. First of all, Mr. Spencer, thanks for taking the time to visit with us. Come right this way, ma'am. There you go. Tell us why you are. I'm going to move this because I'm going to move that for you because I want you looking good. All right. How does that? You know, I like people to help me look good, and I need it sometimes.
Thanks, sir.
Mr. Spencer, tell us your involvement with the Tuskegee Airmen.
Okay, hi. My name is Chauncey Spencer II. I'm the son of pioneer aviator Chauncey Spencer Sr. My connection with the Tuskegee Airmen is in several avenues. One of it, I'm the president of the Central Region for the Tuskegee Airmen. I oversee 22 chapters. My other connection is a heritage connection. My father, Chauncey Spencer Sr., along with Dale White, made a historical flight from Chicago to Washington, D.C. on May the 9th of 1939. And on that flight, they had a chance meeting with a junior senator by the name of Harry S. Truman, who gathered his ear to them and wanted to know what their story was and why these guys were here in the Congressional building with these flight suits on. And their lead person was Edgar Brown. Edgar Brown was a lobbyist for the National Airmen's Association of America. And he knew the senators, he knew his way around Washington. And he told Senator Truman that they were trying to get into the Army Air Corps. So Senator Truman said, well, why don't they join? Are they citizens? And so Chauncey Spencer Sr. said, yes, we're citizens. Well, do you vote? Yes. Well, where's your airplane? So they told him it was out at the airport. So Senator Truman said, well, how about if I come out there and take a look at it around 3 o'clock? So Chauncey Spencer Sr. said he didn't think they were going to come out there. So they got there around 3:15. Well, Harry Truman was out there with 4 of his administrative assistants, and they were looking over this airplane. And they got out and they said, Harry Truman said to Chauncey Spencer Sr., you mean to tell me you flew this thing I'm looking at? A Lincoln Page open pit airplane, biplane, had 2 instruments, had an altimeter and an oil pressure gauge. He said, you mean to tell me you flew this thing from Chicago to Washington? And so Chauncey Spencer said, yes, I did, Senator. Would you like to go for a flight? And so the senator said, no, I would not want to go for a flight. But if you got guts enough to fly this thing I'm looking at from Chicago to Washington, I got guts enough to find out why you can't become part of the United States Air Force. So that is how the beginning started for the Tuskegee Airmen. And it was after that meeting on May the 19th, it was June the 27th of 1939 that they included the Negro in the Civil Pilot Training Program, which was the precursor to the Tuskegee Airmen.
Tell us about those first days, how difficult things were in the beginning.
Down to Tuskegee, posing as an instrument mechanic on May the 7th of 1942, after the newspapers had trouble trying to get reports out of Tuskegee, which were investigative reporters like the Pittsburgh Courier and the Chicago Defender. And they sent my father down as an undercover agent posing as an instrument mechanic under the orders of Colonel Estabrook, who was in charge of Wright-Patterson Air Material Command at Patterson Field, now Wright-Patterson. And he was to report to civilian aide at that time, Judge William H. Hastings, who was in charge of the civilian aid. My father reported back the deplorable treatment that the Tuskegee Airmen were being treated as. And it was shortly after that they replaced Colonel Kimball and William G. Williams, who was captain. They replaced him with Noel Parrish, and that became the leader of the Tuskegee Airmen.
Tell us when you talked to your dad about those times, when you talked to him, what did he say, and what really comes to mind when you think back on those conversations you had with your dad?
Well, honestly, I'm 52 years old, so at the time that my father was discussing these things, I was 17 and 18 years old. A lot of it really didn't hit me until I got older. But now I can answer you as an older individual and more knowledgeable that it's not what you can't do, but it's what you can do. And so he never concentrated on the negatives. He always preached on the positives. And it was his trip that they had a lot of things, and it would take longer than this camera has for me to tell you all the obstacles they went through to get to Washington, with a crash landing in Sherwood, Ohio, and an emergency landing behind a commercial passenger airplane in Pittsburgh. There was a lot of things, but it was because of the timing. See, an aviator's life has to do with timing, and it has to be at the right place, the right time, and the right state of mind. And that's what allowed them to be successful.
Tell us how he learned to fly, your dad.
My father learned to fly. He went to the airport in Lynchburg, Virginia, where he was raised, and the white managers told him that they don't teach color to fly, they don't have the intelligence. And my father was very upset. My father went on and graduated from Virginia Seminary with a degree in sociology, and he became a social worker. Oscar the Priest had come through the house. Oscar the Priest was the first congressman after Reconstruction. Vernon Johns brought him to my grandmother's home. My grandmother was a poet of the Harlem Renaissance. Ann Spencer, the NAACP, started the first chapter there in 1917 with W. Du Bois at my grandmother's home. So my parents were very well connected. And after talking with my grandfather said, well, my son would like to fly. They said, well, send him out to Chicago. They got Cornelius Coffey, Willa Brown, Dale White. That group is doing a great job down there, Johnny Robinson. So shortly after that, he resigned his job and moved to Chicago, and Coffey taught him how to fly.
Wow. I want to fast forward your thoughts on the inauguration. I mean, as an African American, let's talk about that briefly. Your thoughts when you saw it happen. You saw that he was sworn in, President of the United States, Barack Obama. I
thought it was a long time coming. And I thought, first of all, let me say, I think I'm an American. I think without hyphenation. I think that once we start realizing that we're Americans without hyphenation, then we will be the same. But as long as we precurse, you're a white American, I'm a black American, then we're still different. But we're not. We're all Americans.
What do you think your dad, after he went through what he went through as a Tuskegee Airman, what would he think about what's happening?
I think that he would think that there is faith and goodwill in mankind, and that's all he believed in. He preached to us. I come from a family of 4 boys and 4 girls, and he preached no race in our family, no discrimination in our family, and he wouldn't allow it. And so that's how we were raised, and that's the lesson I get from him, is that democracy will be served, and with President Obama as the President of the United States, it's evident that democracy has been served.
And don't you think, I've heard just here in the last few days, he's going to be such a great example. He's a married man, loves you can tell he loves his family.
Right.
I mean, that's a great example for any color.
Absolutely. That's why we're human beings. I mean, it's not even about civil rights anymore. It's about human rights. It was always around human rights. I mean, all the way from Mary McLeod Bethune, who was a very close friend of Eleanor Roosevelt. That was one of our contacts as a so-called Negro at that time, that we had a chance to get to Roosevelt. Roosevelt really wasn't concerned about integration. Roosevelt was concerned about the Negro vote. Because if we do our history, we'll find out before Roosevelt, so-called black people voted for Republicans all the way from Abraham Lincoln. It was Roosevelt that turned the Democrats into more of a minority-supported party.
We've got just a little more time. If you got just a little more time, it's okay. I want to ask you another question tonight. What's happening tonight? Tell us about what we're doing tonight and how this is a special evening for you.
Well, it's special. Robin Petgrave is a very...
You know Robin, yes.
Okay, you know Robin. Okay,
well, Robin's a promoter.
He's a promoter. He's a promoter.
And
he's a giver. He's a supporter. He's just an all-around great individual. I can't praise him any higher than that, or I'd have to call him God. But
we don't want to do that.
No, but he's
lightning may fire down.
No, we don't want that. But I'm honored to be here, to be a part of what's going on here in the California area, and I hope that I'll have a chance to give a few good words to the audience as to the backgrounds that we all come from. Each one of us here have a story to be told. We're all American heroes. Each one of us and our ancestors have done something to contribute to this country, and neither one is more important than the other.
A couple of more questions. The Tuskegee Airmen movie, were you happy about that? You felt good about it, or did Hollywood mess things up, or were you okay with it?
I was lucky enough to go to the premiere when it came to Detroit, and I thought that 90% of it was excellent because it gave them the exposure that they need. Now, if we can work hard to get it in our curriculum, we won't have to keep doing these speeches every day. It'll be part of our class, and third graders will be able to say, oh yeah, I remember I studied the Tuskegee Airmen, like we studied George Washington. But as far as the movie goes, there were falsehoods in it. But as the movie states, it wasn't a documentary. It was a movie.
Yeah.
And that's what it was.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Great job. Yeah, great job.
Thank you, sir.
Let's get your mind off of you. We're going to do some more. Thank you. Very good. Well, you were on
I'm on a mission.
Oh, you're on a mission.
I'm on a mission.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do you have a fire by chance?
I do.
Can I have one?
You certainly can. Yeah. You certainly can. Yeah, that was... were you around 10 weeks ago? Shot his last movie there in Detroit.
No, but I got to go see it. In Rose Point.
Very good.
It was excellent.
Yeah.
Listen, we have a chance. We're going to do a lot of movies.
Well, I understand that he even bought a house there.
He did.
He bought a house. And he wants to make some more movies there.
We're excited. Detroit needs help. like the
Devin
rest of the
Skillion,
world.
you ever watch Devin Skillion?
Of course.
We worked together in Oklahoma City years ago.
No
Yeah,
kidding.
well, we were at opposing stations.
I know.
but yeah. Do you know? Do you
Yeah.
know Devin? Yeah.
Yeah.
If you run into him, tell him Ben McCain said hello. Yeah. Yeah, you bet. So you know Devin? Yeah. It's been a while since I haven't talked to him in a while.
He's doing very well.
Yeah. I think he's really created a name for himself there in Detroit. Yeah. And what about Steve